Hi, I'm Brandon Doerrer, Creativity and Media Innovation Reporter at AdAge. Welcome to another edition of the Marketer's Brief podcast, our weekly discussion of marketing news and trends that have the industry buzzing. Today, I'm joined by Mark Douglas, President and CEO of Mountain. In our conversation, Mark talks about how AI is reshaping TV advertising, both creatively and through media planning and buying. We talk about when to use AI to create TV ads, including how Mountain balances AI generated and live action footage in its campaigns, and how agentic AI should be used to buy inventory. Here's that conversation with Mark now. Mark Douglas, welcome to the Marketer's Brief podcast.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
It is very good to have you. Thank you for joining us. Let's start by talking a little bit about Mountain overall. I think most of our listeners are probably going to know what Mountain is, but it probably could not hurt to kind of get a brief overview just of what it is before we start to dive into some other topics.
Yeah, sure. So Mountain is basically a connected TV app platform that we specifically call, we provide performance TV. So we turn television into a performance marketing channel, one that you can run at the same level as paid search and paid social. And we do this for any size company. So we've essentially democratized television as a medium for any company to find their next customers using streaming television.
And speaking of democratizing marketing for brands of all sizes, we're going to be talking about AI a lot. This
Awesome.
episode, of course, there is loads to talk about
Loving
in that space.
it.
So let's start to jump into it. Maybe let's start by talking a little bit about how Mountain uses AI right now. I know it's pretty embedded throughout the company.
Yeah.
Kind of give a little bit of an overview of how Mountain is using AI these days, and particularly if you can touch on some of the new ways maybe that you've just started to recently use it.
Yeah, so I mean, I'll start with the product and then work to like our internal usage. So in terms of our performance TV solution, I believe we're the first company to introduce AI targeting in television. So essentially using large language models and machine learning in order to really pinpoint the exact consumer for a brand. And why that's so important is our brands are not like large global brands. They're small and mid-sized advertisers looking to find, thousands of consumers. So when they spend their budget, you just can't blast it across the United States. You really have to like pinpoint who the exact right consumer is. And so we call that Mountain Match. And the reason we refer to it as matching, Mountain Match, is we feel like we're literally matching consumers with brands and products they're going to potentially love. So that's the level to which we're getting it. The other thing is one of the big obstacles in making this possible, any size brand can use television, is they don't have TV ads when we meet them. We are over 95% of the time, the first time a brand is using television as a medium. So first we had create a marketplace to help them build ads. And now we have generative AI tools on top of that. So that to help them build 30-second, 15-second TV commercials. And so they can launch quickly, easily, and also refresh that creative often, try different ideas and so forth. And then there's AI usage. We right now have AI media planning where you can like the precision with which we decide what networks to place ads on. We work across just about every streaming network in America. So using AI to determine that. And it's just all pocketed throughout our products. And those are kind of the highlights. And then within the company, we use it in sales, marketing, like all of the use it, mainly generative AI. So like help writing press releases, help writing copy with website, just kind of at this point, it's like asking how to use mobile. It's just there, and it's like a tool that we use across the company, and it's made us materially more efficient, so we're pleased with that.
Yeah, it might be easier to answer where you are not using it if you wanted to be
Yeah.
specific about locations where AI is and is not. I want to talk a little bit about the marketing side of things. Mountain recently released a campaign. Did AI do that? Talking about AI, can you talk about the work that you guys released pretty recently?
Yeah, so we released a campaign for our quick frame tool, and the gist of it was, did AI do that? So we just wanted people to really realize that the capabilities in generative AI, specifically around creative, are progressing so fast that you can really use this in your ad campaign. So we use both generative AI for our own ads as well as obviously our customer ads. as well as recorded video. And we use, and sometimes both in the same ad unit. Like you don't have to go all AI. Like there could be, you have in a 30-second ad, you're going to have three, four scenes in the ad generally. So you might have some of that be generative and some of that be recorded video. So, but we just wanted to get a sense of that. And my opinion on there's just changing or adding to that topic a little bit. There's a little bit of people feeling like generative AI they should know when it's generative AI, and I fully agree with that. I think the video should be marked, and I mean on social, on TV, wherever. But we had a lot of fun with that campaign in terms of is it AI, and we had Jamil White as kind of the spokesperson. So that was a lot of fun to film also.
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit more about the quick frame tool in just a little bit.
Yeah.
Really quick, you talked about, right, there can be a blend of using AI in some scenes, using some live action footage in others. What was the balance for you guys in this particular campaign?
In that campaign, that was recorded by Maximum Efforts, I think, and it's a pretty simple shot. I mean, it's two people, three people, I think, involved in the video, so there wasn't any AI in that. But then we, about 2 weeks ago, we did something around heated rivalry that was fully AI. I mean, that would have cost $50,000 to $75,000 to record. Like basically, it was hockey players involved, and that would have cost taken many weeks to like just arrange everything, get into a hockey rink, get the players suited up, record that, edit that, and that was done by a creator using with generative AI tools essentially in a day, less than a day. And that also made 9 versions of it within 2 days. So we had a lot to choose from. So that was a lot of fun. We did something for Valentine's Day on Friday. We put an AI generated video out. So we're using, if they're like paid actors, that's generally not going to be AI. I've joked with people, if Ryan Reynolds is in it, that's the real Ryan Reynolds. That's not that's not an AI version of him. If he's not in it or his team, then generally right now it's AI generated by Mountain, and we're having a lot of fun with it. It's allowing us to put out so much more creative than we previously were. Yeah, there's this feeling that like generative AI is going to eliminate jobs. Actually, we are like using creators constantly with this. It's actually doing quite the opposite because there's still like a need for people to have some creative freedom and bring a creative spirit to it and do production. And so if anything, like we've been going out on TikTok and Instagram looking for interesting AI work and then DMing the creators and saying, hey, we'd love for you to do a few videos for us for our own marketing. And it's been quite the opposite. That most of this work is still being done by professional creators. They're just doing it in 2 days rather than 6 weeks.
Right.
So
Gotcha. When you were deciding what to use AI for and what not to use AI for, obviously some of the celebrity work, there are, I think, logistics, right, challenges around using AI when
yeah.
celebrities are involved there. Are there other ideas or thinking you have about what campaigns it makes sense for when it doesn't?
So we had a really interesting another idea for Valentine's Day we wanted to do, and we just couldn't get the models to do it. So there are limitations. Like we just couldn't get it to execute the idea in the way we wanted. So in this case, we ran out of time, but the next step was okay, well, let's just record it. So it kind of, I think the go to is let's try this with AI. And then in the worst case, it kind of is almost like the new storyboard if you're going to record it. Like here's an example of what we want. Because I think the one of the biggest fears I've always had around creative is you hire a team and they're going to go and do something and then they produce something that's not what you wanted, right? And they still want to get paid, right? And they put in the time. And so if you even for like a big creative agency that's doing like just things with lots of special effects or for any number of reasons they don't want to use AI, it's still a really great tool to kind of agree on what the final product is going to be. That's true for advertising amount. I imagine it's also going to be true for feature length films and certainly things between a feature length film and like a 30-second TV commercial.
Yeah. And you guys work with Maximum Effort on some of the live action stuff. Do you tend to do the more AI generated campaigns yourselves? Do you also work with Maximum Effort on those?
So the AI stuff we do in house, and then the like they did last year for us Oscar ad. The Oscars for the first time were giving out awards to stunt people. And believe it or not, that I guess that or this particular type of word had never been done. So Max Murphy, I think, did like 6 Oscar ads around stunts, and Mountain was in there. And if you look at the ad they created, which was a lot of fun, you could have kind of generated that in AI, but I think it just turned out really well when it was like they had to go out into the desert and explode a bunch of televisions because we're exploding television advertising, right? And I think, there is something to be said for like using the right craft for whatever the right ad unit is. I think there was backlash in the Super Bowl that almost like people were using AI just because they thought they would maybe get more press around it, and they did get more press around it, which was a backlash around like the medium is not the point. The medium, meaning AI versus non AI, that is not the point. The art is. And if you make the medium the point, then people are actually going to tune out. So, and I also agree with that. It's a tool. It's not the point.
Yeah, I think this year was the first like fully generated like end-to-end AI
Yeah.
generated spot that we saw. So I'm very curious next year to see if that it probably will if we
Yeah.
get more than if we get more than
I don't
one.
know if I was spending millions and millions of dollars, I would probably still pull out a camera. And this is coming from someone who's like really on the leading edge of generative AI tools. But again, we're doing those tools, for what makes sense, not because I'm not sitting here advocating no one should ever pick up a camera again. They'd be crazy to do that. I'm like that's insane. Like, we're not here talking with my agentic representative. It's like me and you, and that's needed. That's needed in advertising also.
I want to talk a little bit about results. Mountain released fourth quarter full year results not super long ago. It was a great
Yeah.
Q4. It sounds like QuickFrame was played a pretty decent role, right, in some of the success you guys saw. Can you talk a little bit about Q4, some of the results, and how AI, some of your own AI tools are factoring in?
Yeah, yeah. So it seemed like our results were very well received. We had a good quarter. And yeah, I mean, I think what people are responding to, we grew 36% year over year, which is, among the fastest growth rates, in the industry and among publicly traded companies. And so I think everyone responded well to that. And the reason that's happening is the things we're talking about. It's, kind of inventing a new market, which is performance TV, and then continually innovating in that market, both with AI, obviously, but across everything we do, just being innovators. And the quick frame definitely plays a role in that. All of the various things I mentioned play a role. We're also constantly working on new products. So we kind of always have one more thing to announce. Like I mentioned, the AI media planning. We have some other products that are being tested by customers that haven't been announced yet. So I think that overall tone was just very well received. And the bottom line, it's leading the growth, and we intend to be ambitious and to continue growing.
Let's actually talk about media planning for a second because, kind of late last year, early this year, we started seeing talks about some of the earliest examples of like fully agentic TV media buys, right? On
Yeah.
the seller end, on the buyer end. Looking forward, how do you see agentic AI shaping the future of TV advertising and how is Mountain adapting, right, for that future?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's similar to the conversation we were having earlier about it's not the point, it's a tool. So I kind of obviously artificial intelligence is an incredible revolution. I like to also use the phrase augmented intelligence. And so we go with a bit more of a like all these things can be fully automated, but you should be in the decision loop and you should actively take yourself out of the decision loop. In other words, if you like, I've been following along, I've been making changes. So we use AI recommendations for everything that are part of using our product. And then anytime you can just say, do this automatically. I don't need to see it anymore. So when you go to the media planning, I'll give you a really specific example. So right now in programmatic advertising, the way it works is you kind of provide like a pile of money and you get back a pile of impressions. And where they ran, you actually don't exert much control over it. There are not many industries where you spend this much money and you find out after how the money was spent. And I just think that's like crazy. I just generally think. So what we are doing is we're saying, here's an AI generated media plan, which takes into account your performance and contextually what you're selling, like the audience, like who would be best for this, and both not just in terms of the people, but in terms of the context. So if you're Hexclad, you would probably prefer to be on Food Network and stuff like that. And so that generates an AI generated media plan that you can then change, that you can then override, adjust, change allocations, or you could just let it run and say, I don't even need to see this. But that's what I'm referring to as like more like augmented intelligence. And so I think agentic just is this, it, to me, is the same thing. You can have it like you still should be in the loop, but and agentic AI can execute all this for you, or you can just say, I don't even need to be involved. And that's kind of how we're approaching it and how I think it will play out in the long run. And these days, long run is like 6 months, right? Like it's
Yeah,
not
things change
really
quickly.
that long. Because I think society as a whole and AI as a technology, they're kind of calibrating with each other right now. And the fears, and it seems like we keep finding the middle on this, meaning that, oh, this is really helpful and this is, makes me super productive, but it doesn't like replace me. It doesn't replace, my knowledge of my brand, my knowledge of who my target consumer is, my knowledge of where I think it plays best, but it augments it, makes it so much more efficient. And that's kind of how we're looking at it.
Earlier, you mentioned that you're mostly working with brands that are doing TV advertising for the first time.
Yeah.
I'm really curious, both on the creative front and the media front. What are some of the most common things that you find brands don't necessarily understand about using AI in TV advertising? Like, are there common things you usually have to inform or kind of correct brands on, whether it be, do they assume that AI can literally do end to end the entire thing? Or what is kind of, I guess, the kind of piece of advice you're offering the most?
No, I think that virtually all of our customers, if not all of them, are also using Meta ad platform, Google ad platform, and they see us as like providing that kind of capabilities, but for streaming television. So I wouldn't say there are many misunderstandings. Probably the thing that speaks to your question is back to the creative. I think people are often still not fully, if they're not actively on TikTok, they're not fully aware like just how fast the creative part of this has progressed. And literally a year ago, you could not get a usable piece of creative out of a generative AI tool. And I'm talking 12 months ago, not like a year and a half. Like it was in April was about the first time you could, I think, with people saw Sora, or maybe even a little earlier they saw Sora, but like Google VO started to produce like usable video, and there were models. And we've gone from that to the Super Bowl fully generative in less than a year. And I think that has progressed so fast. I think a lot of people are not fully aware of like just how quick this is. If they didn't see Jake Paul applying makeup on TikTok with, with the release of Sora 2, or they thought that was actually Jake Paul, then they're just having to catch up real fast to how this has progressed.
You are really missing out if you have not seen Jake Paul putting on
Exactly.
makeup on TikTok.
That is true words have not been spoken, as they say.
All right, Mark, I think that is all that we have time for today. So I just want to say thank you again for taking some time to join us here on the Marketer's Brief.
Appreciate it. Had a great time talking.
That was Mark Douglas, President and CEO of Mountain. I'm Brandon Doerrer, Creativity and Media Innovation Reporter at Ad Age. I'd like to thank our producer, Lauren Chiardia, and invite you to subscribe to the Marketer's Brief podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. We promise we'll keep it brief.